Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is April 17, 2024. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Yale Strom. Is that it, Yale?
Perfect.
I did it. Where in the heck you calling in from?
I'm calling in from the fair city of San Diego, California.
How cool is that? The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Wow, the best thing for a human being um, is to love oneself and be open to everybody else.
I like that. And open to others. Yeah, because the great Eden Abe wrote a song called Nature Boy, and this said, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return. You really are on the right beam, right up our alley there, Yale. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Wow, that's a good one. I guess I've become a 21st century person. I do like um, get, speaking with people, reading it on the internet, newspapers, even a bit of television. I can't say that. Yeah, those different forms. The thing is, for sure, it's like anything, even if you read the newspaper, but particularly online, you just have to, now you got to be careful because anything can be put, you can put everything out there from excellence to subpar. So you got to be sure what you're reading. Is it true? How do you delineate it? How do you fact check it? And if I may just interject, you mentioned Eden Abez. Well, of course, that famous tune that he wrote, Nature Boy, which of course he was able to eventually, it took him some time to get it to Mr.
Nat King Cole.
Nat King Cole, when he was gigging in one of the clubs in LA. Finally he did, and of course the rest is history. I made the first recording of Nature Boy in Yiddish.
Oh, wow. What year is that?
It came out last year, 2023, on a recording called wow, man, I'm having a junior moment. What is that recording called? The Wolf and the Lamb, live from the shop. The Wolf and the Lamb, and people can hear it in Yiddish for the first time, as well as in English too.
Well, you have to get it to Brian Chittister, who's making the documentary. Do you know Brian?
I don't know. I'll have to.
Just Google Brian Chittister. Just Google Eden Abez documentary. He's been making it for years. It's really, really good, and you got to connect with Brian.
Oh, I will. Yes. Oh, thank you for much.
So Yale, did you become a reader, one, because your parents told you to, two, they did it as an example, or three, on your own?
They did it as an example. My parents, both my mother and father, were avid readers. As a young kid, I wasn't. I liked reading, but I was, wanted to play. You can see I have a lot of energy. I wanted to be outside or do toys and, play. And I think my parents were a little worried when I was getting into middle school years. I wasn't reading as much as they thought. So at summertime, I think what was the 7th to 8th grade, they said, okay, you got to read X books this summer. And they picked some classics, whatever. And being forced to, I didn't like that. But then, I always liked to read, as I said, and then I grew into it. And of course, I'm a writer, so I like to read other people's works, and I hope people will read my works.
Beautiful. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Because I think we realize we are here on this wonderful planet called Earth for such a finite, minuscule. It's not even, the thickness of a flea's wing, because billion years have come before me, and a billion years will come after me. So I think just having information, being able to categorize, to document a certain period of time, to understand what was happening then, because I think nothing happens on its own for no reason. And we can, it sounds so old fashioned, but yes, you can learn from the past. And to apply to the present. And guess what? The future generations will say, huh, what can we learn from 2024 dudes and so forth? So I think it's good to have that information, just to have information and then throw it away like, okay, the next generation, let them start from scratch. No, why?
Beautiful. And is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
Wow. I think, it's a combination of both. I think innate, I think humans as an animal, we're a curious species. Where does that come from? Something as simple as where does that, I'm hungry. I have that apple, but who picked it? How did it grow? Why is it that color? Why do I see it in the store? How did it come there? I mean, we're curious from something that simple to just innately you wake up in the morning and your brain is not empty. It's thinking things. It's what happened yesterday. What happened in the nighttime? What dreams did I have? How is my day unfolding? Even for the people who quote have the most mundane, boring jobs, still it's not autopilot. There's some thinking there. Even the thinking that they have said to themselves, this is boring to me. And eventually maybe they'll say, how do I get from feeling bored? What do I do to get out of that?
It's really good. Do thoughts create emotions?
Absolutely. I believe so. Oh, yes. From something, something is, if you think of something, I think of my wife and how beautiful she is, or, it makes me think of sexy, natural thoughts of a husband, wife to, I think of my dad who recently passed away and I miss him dearly. And, he's constantly in my mind because, when you're younger, you're kind of, they'll be there forever. Or yes, I know one day they'll pass, but that one day, I don't want to talk about when that one day will come. So it's definitely our thoughts really control our emotions. And of course, though, then some say, but then have control because you don't want it to control your emotions to the point that it makes you so down. If it's a depressing, sad thought that you can't go forth, or if you're not healthy mentally, it makes you do something that's irrational and maybe hurt yourself or hurt others. So it's, I have that thought. Do I act upon it or do I not? Or do I let it go in? Okay, let me just let that pass.
Beautiful, Yale. You're a wordsmith, and I appreciate how articulate you are. Fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
don't know what I think until I hear it, see it. Yeah, I don't like to prejudge before I know something. I mean, we're all humans. We all have to prejudge. Like, my friend says, let's go to this restaurant. I've never heard of it. I don't know that food. I'm prejudging it. He's saying, well, wait a minute. You know nothing about it. Be open to it. You're right. Let me be open to it. And maybe I will like it. Or maybe you'll say, yes, Yale, I can see there's nothing on the menu you like, but you gave it a chance.
Yeah. McLuhan said, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion said, I don't know what I think until I write it. So I like what you said, hear and see.
Yes.
Can humans think without language?
Absolutely. I think early, the earliest, whatever we want to call them, cavemen, Neanderthal, the early quote primitive man, woman, man, human. I'm not a paleontologist. I would think Jane Goodall will say that gorillas think, chimpanzees think. I think you see an object. It may not be like, I see the object. It's called banana, so I see the word in English. BANNA, banana. However I spelled it. But the point being is, I think you have. Language is not just what you and I are doing right now in English. There are other ways to communicate without literally saying a letter, forming a sentence.
It's like Chomsky says, a language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Yale, what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Well, that's a great question. Well, okay, so let's speak from my personal experiences. I'm an ethnographer. who has focused my ethnography research in several areas, particularly in East European Jewish as well as Romani culture. It is broadened, but let's say that. Okay. Pre-World War II, but particularly post-World War II, particularly also the East Bloc era, when a lot of people weren't going there just for whatever reason. And so people have the reason. You're from the West. Do I trust him? Do I not? Of course, being Jewish with the Jews, okay, Jewish, but the Roma, the Gypsy, but we should say Roma, the Romani culture. You're an outsider. So even with the Jewish informants and the Roman informants, I found the language that spoke to the matter, to the heart immediately. And then they say, you're welcome for dinner. And now I'll tell you my story, which was the violin spoke a language that is so different from words. And people say, I said, no, let's do an experiment. You go and I go. You speak perfect Polish, play no in music. Matter of fact, maybe even tone deaf. I speak not a word of Polish. I speak and I play Polish folk music, all kinds. We'll see who gets invited to dinner faster, you or me.
Jak się masz?
Yeah, jak się masz? She said, bardzo fajne.
Very good. In your observations of humans in general, are we more feeling beings or more thinking beings?
Ooh, wow, Jerry, that is a good question. More feeling or more thinking? Well, I'd like to say feeling, but I think that thinking of what is going on in the world today with the chaos, the wars, and famine and destruction and sadness, I think we're more thinking, because if we are more feeling, I as someone who had the power to at the head of a government or head of an agency that commanded a lot of money and power and outreach, I'd be more sympathetic, putting myself in people's shoes. I think, no, we think first and then we feel, sadly, in 2024.
It's funny because 80% of people say we're more feeling beings, and they say it like this: I think we're more feeling beings.
Okay.
But Bridget Bardot goes, when I make love, I don't think. And I'm like, good luck. How can you ever turn off your brain from thinking? Even you're doing the most sensuous thing. And even people who meditate, they go, okay, think about not thinking.
That's great. Yeah, of course. When I'm making love or I'm doing something that's the brain. I mean, it's right. Listen, when I go to sleep, my brain is still on, or I wouldn't dream. I mean, dreaming is taking, that's a whole nother subject. But and last night, actually, I had the most vivid, weird dream. It's like, I think like, wow, where did those thoughts come from?
Right. And there's a bumper sticker on my street on a car, and it says, don't believe everything you think. And then I say, well, you could put, don't believe everything you feel.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Right.
Yeah, you can't really separate thinking from feeling, but we think we can because we invented the words.
Very good. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And when you invent those words and you feel you're the commander of it, you feel that power. Well, I have the control, but that power over you is looking down and said, dude, you may think you're in control, but you're really not.
I love what you said. It reminds me of Paul Krasner. Well, it's two jokes, exactly what you said. The little leaguer's up at bat and he goes, please God, let me hit a home run. And the pitcher goes, please God, let me strike him out. Clouds part and God's voice goes, you superstitious fools.
Exactly.
And then the guy falls off the side of the mountain. He's holding on the cliff and he goes, help, is there anyone who can help me? Clouds part and it says, God's voice says, I'm God, I can help you. Let go and I'll save you. The guy goes, is there anyone else who can help me?
Right. Can you guarantee me that?
Okay, two questions from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Ooh, well, that's a good, that's the whole thing about what is soul? Do we have a soul? Do we believe in a soul? Is thinking a function of the soul? Well, wow. I'm usually not lost for words. That is a great question he asked. I mean, if I believe in the soul, that we have this entity that in English we call soul. It's something that science can't confirm or unconfirm. Then I say, yeah, I think there's definitely there's some connection. You know what? I think I'm going to say yes, because you know why? Because I don't know, or I haven't done the research, the reading, doesn't mean there's a possibility it can exist. That's why we have the saying 50-50. 50-50 could be true. 50-50 can be true. So I'm going to go in the middle and see where it lands.
Yeah. You know, Yale, this is fun because you really get it. We're having fun, but we're actually exchanging, and I
Right.
appreciate this. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
I'm going to say the machines of what we thought of machine. Let's say I'm originally from Detroit, so I grew up. I had uncles and aunts in the automobile industry, from working on the assembly line to office work. Those machines don't work. But now, with the advent, invention, discovery, whatever you want to call it, of artificial intelligence, AI, well, can that machine, can it think? Does it have which is interesting, because when you think, what is it? That machine, it's just not about thinking, but now the word comes, does that machine have an opinion?
Yeah.
That's what's interesting. And it's scary, because we only think that human animals have opinions. We don't think a dog has an opinion, a cat, But so I don't know. Maybe as we go further into this really interesting, perhaps a bit scary, but still new things can be scary good, not just scary bad, that machines will be able to think more, but will they be able to have an opinion?
Yeah. It's really good. It's expanding. It's me and you versus the wording on the question. So I love when people expand, change the words. But just to sidetrack, what year were you born, Yale?
I was born in 1960.
60. I was born in 53 in Flint, Michigan. Where in Detroit? Where in Detroit were you raised?
So I was raised through elementary years because we moved out here. But I was raised in, in the city, the two streets, Ardmore, just south of, between 7 and 8 Mile Road.
7 and 8 Mile. Cool.
Yeah.
Because what you brought up was really amazing. Because when they first put robots on the line in Flint to help build cars, one of the robots killed one of the workers. And it was just like, now, it's like they just says, okay, keep doing it. They didn't stop. It became automation. But now, when an electric car kills someone, it's like, oh my God. And, it is a huge deal, this whole thing. You handled that well. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
More happiness versus what was the other?
Meaning.
Oh, meaning. I could say meaning. Maybe that sounds a bit more deep of me, but I think if I had to choose, I'm gonna say happiness, because I think with happiness I will find deeper meaning. I think how our world is so tied to technologies. The last 30 years, computer, this thing called social media, internet. I mean, words, just 50 years ago, people said, well, what language are you speaking? I don't understand. Google, I don't understand that. I think, and it's so easy to get caught up in the strife and stress of living in 21st century United States, but the world, let's say I'm in the United States, where there is a dog eat dog thing. Listen, it's a capitalist society. I have to pay rent like anybody else. Not everybody is of the 0.1% whose parents are zillionaires and I can live off their money. We have to work. And so we get involved in that daily school, work, got to do this, got to make my spouse happy, kids happy. I think, though, we forget about essentially being happy with ourselves and making others happy. And we get caught up in stuff.
Totally.
As this happiness, as I call it, when I see commercials on the TV, I call it, I turn the mute on. Oh, there's capital. I call it capitalism.
Yeah, capitalism. That is good.
Yeah. Okay. There they are. And yeah, but if that's all we find happiness in, I feel sorry for people. Yes, sure. Do I like something that tastes good, or do I like a beautiful a piece of pottery just for its aesthetics? I don't have to use it. Yes. So we find different ways in happiness, but I think um, uh, that's something that I think. Well, I think we see a rise in mental disease and social depression because we put um, these levels that we should reach to be happy at. If you haven't made this much, if you haven't bought the home, if you haven't had the suburb, if you don't
Yeah.
have your EV car, if you don't. And people say, wow, I'm 45. I have one of those 10 things I had. Man, I'm not going to live to be 450. I only got another 45 years. I'm unhappy. So I think we need to search for the meaning of happiness and try to strive for it. Yeah.
You kind of describe this line. I always say, create the disease and offer the cure. Well, you need this. Oh, I do. Yeah, I got the question from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's
Oh,
Search for
right.
Meaning, because he says that happiness doesn't necessarily last, but meaning does.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I see
Yeah.
that. Okay, that's
So,
true.
yeah,
Right, right. That's very true. Yeah, happiness can be fleeting, sadly, for some people. Right,
yeah.
right.
Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Wow. I think I'm going to say on this one, I'm going to come into. I think it's both. I think
Yeah.
right now I'm conscious of me sitting in my room, my office, you there. We're having this conversation. I'm conscious that hopefully people will find whatever I'm saying somewhat enlightening. I mean, my ego isn't so huge. I am an artist, and an artist can. If you're an artist and you say you don't have an ego, then you're a liar or you're a bad artist. But am I? You know, where does that go? So it's yeah, I think because of the hurly burly of how we live our lives, well, us in America, for the middle class average, to say that we don't stop for a moment enough
Yeah.
to just wait. Okay, slow down, stop talking, and think. Or what did you just see? I take moments. Sometimes I do. I try to because I'm a very energetic kind of person. But there are times I just say, let me just walk down the street and just see what I see. I'm not going to and smile and say hello, but just kind of just take it in and see how that plays upon me. So good question, Jerry. I wish I
Well,
had
it reminds me of Ram Dass, be here now, like you live in the present.
exactly. I think
And
we need to, right?
yeah, what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Wow. I think speed of thought is, I think, thoughts come in and out. I mean, light is fast. I forgot how many 100,000 miles, whatever it is per second. Um, but I think thought, you can get a thought literally instantly and it's gone. I mean, they're both quick, but I think a thought now, if you asked what leaves the lasting impression on me, I think the thought, even though it's come and gone, because let's say I forgot it. Wait a minute, what is it? So I know something happened. Why am I forgetting it? And then it kind of bothers you all day. And like when you're having conversation, people thinking, and they're talking like, oh shoot, that thought, because you interrupted somebody and they were about to say something, but it comes in, and it's interesting because I know for myself, when I'm about to say something or I want to say something, and then someone interrupts me, like I sometimes do, and we're talking, okay, and then they say, and you were going to say something. I go, yeah, what the hell was it? It bothers me though, like an itch, So light goes out, but and you know why I think is because that was something personal. That was me. I don't control light, but thought I can control whether it comes in or out.
Well, Yale, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions,
Right.
but that one you got right.
Oh, okay, good.
Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rayner responded, says, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
Wow. to use to dismantle that.
Well, here's just to you put the questions in the context you want.
Okay.
Sometimes I put a cute quote before the question. The question, and you don't have to say new. The question basically is, what tool do you gravitate towards? You can add the word
Oh,
new.
right,
You
right.
can add the word new if you want.
You know what? I think
You
the
can
tool.
apply it. You can apply it to dismantling the master.
I think the tool, something that may seem so mundane, but the tool of conversation.
Yes.
If we don't, as humans, yes, we talk, but are we really talking? Are we really listening? Are we observing and then talking? You know, as if we really listen and heard the other person, and then say, "Wow, you know, I didn't know that, or I took it for granted, or something." So I think conversation, because words then can often be used in to affect physical motion, emotion, or physical if I'm tearing something down, or create just a whole. When someone says, "You know, I always thought you thought this way, Yale, and I didn't like you, but now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go break bread and we'll talk about it." I said, "Great." So I think conversation, positive, open-hearted, honest conversation is one of the biggest tools that we still don't use enough in the world today.
Love it, because I learned this one years ago. Two people talking is the revolution, and your requirement is both talking and listening. That's why conversation. What new toy do you suggest?
New toy. Well, you know what? I would say to people, if you to I'm gonna okay, because it's one of my forms, is I'm gonna say music. Even whether you want to learn to play an instrument, which is great, or if you feel like I don't have the talent, and I don't believe that, at least sing. And people say, why music? Yeah, why didn't you say drawing or writing? Because I say of all the art forms, I think the most innate to what became us known as humans is music. Why? I say the people say, "Oh, that's not. I'm not musical." Oh, yeah, really? Oh, that's right. I feel my heart. It's beating. And what is music? It's rhythm. Put your hand where your lungs are. What do you feel?
Mama,
Rhythm.
yes.
Exactly. And so humans, we were innately built. We're a musical instrument. A lot of us just don't realize it. And so, and I think music is that language, that language that we're still learning to understand, that is even more powerful than written language, even though the music, when I say that. And so, yeah, I would say for a toy, simple word, TOY, toy, I would say take up an instrument or sing. Or if nothing else, be open to listening to all kinds of music. Even you might say, I don't like that. All right, try it. Okay, you don't have to like it. Try it. And there is the beauty of the computer. YouTube is unbelievable. I wouldn't be able to live 10 lifetimes to listen to all the music that's always constantly being on there. Yes, is there stuff that I don't like and I feel it's just not good, interesting, bad, whatever, fine. But there's so much interesting. And also when I hear melodies, voices, lyrics, it makes me feel and think new ways. It's giving me ideas. So in a way, it not in a way, it is directly speaking. It is having a conversation with my inner thoughts.
You like covered everything we're going to talk about, so we can just shut it off right now. I mean, that was you covered so much, but there's three things. One is people go, "Are you a musician, Jerry?" I go, "Yeah." What do you play? I go, "Empty cassette box on the side of my leg." Rhythm. And then
absolutely.
Walter Pater nailed it. He said, all art aspires to the condition of music, like poetry, architecture, painting, everything wishes it could be as cool as music.
Yeah.
Because what do you do with music? You play music.
Exactly.
And work.
Exactly. That's right. And okay, I paint a picture of an apple. Someone sees it. Wow, that's a beautiful pineapple or a coconut. I say, okay, you can say that. Nothing wrong. You're free, but it's an apple. Really? Here's the object that I got. In other words, but I play a song. no word, the song and how I emote it, play it short, fast, whatever. And someone says, "Oh, you're telling a story about da 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 da." And someone says, "No, no, no. The story is about this and that." Person over there, no, the story. That's the beauty, because everyone can interpret that language to how they feel and think and their personal lived experiences. And so no one, and it's hard to say, listen, I pick up this. Yes, I can call the cell phone a bicycle. Really? I can't really, but okay, yeah, I'll call it a bicycle. It's not going to take you very far. It's a cell phone. But if I put music on there and I say, someone says, "Oh, what are you listening to?" I hear a bicycle. I see it going through the mountains this way. So really, I don't, but I do. But that person can't say I'm wrong. He says, "No, I hear something completely different. I hear a man working in his backyard in the garden." Beautiful for you. So I think music is such an innate language that if the whole world played an instrument or sang, there'd be a lot less strife.
We're going to get into music much deeper, but I have to interject this now. Igor Stravinsky gave these famous lectures on music means nothing, meaning, you read a book, that meant something. Like music, it doesn't, and he was just taking it to the extreme. Like you said, it's open for anyone to interpret whatever they want, and especially instrumental music, you're saying. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Well, there's the typical concerns of, let's say, I got to pay that bill tomorrow, or my daughter has to do this. What do I have to accomplish the next day? I try not to worry. I mean, I think sometimes too much, but yeah. Will I accomplish what I set to do? I make a list every day, one whatever. And I cross it off. I'm a doer. I like to, because it feels good. There's something about the human nature. Oh, I put a line to it. That means I accomplished it. People like that. And so, even if you had a line of 20 items and you only did one, but I did one. If you did none, you say, "Wow, was I lazy today? What happened to me?" So I think, hopefully to accomplish something the next day. And also, be pretentious or anything. Also, hopefully, I will have discovered or learned or heard something new, because life is short. So I don't want to just everything be the same. Even if 98% was the same, but I tasted something new and never tasted, or read something new, or heard something new, or met somebody new, then it's like, wow, that's the cherry on top of the cake. And so I try to then. I think that's because of it's like when I play the violin, someone just to fool around, no music in front of me, someone, and wait a minute, I've done that finger pattern many times. Let's just do something really out, something that maybe sounds discordant, but I'm purposely doing it because I'm thinking, why do I think of that word discordant when I'm playing this? Maybe to someone they say, "Oh my God, that's the most gorgeous lullaby I ever heard." Someone here would say, "Oh my God, that's hurting my ears." It's like, what makes something sounds beautiful versus discordant?
Exactly. And the list thing was amazing, because my friend's giving a whole event on list making this weekend, and I'm really excited about it, because my favorite line is, "I love to make a list," and then you check them off, and then you lose the list, and then you start, and then you got the day off.
Right.
and then the next day you start a new list, and the first thing you put at the top of the list is "find old lists."
Right. I know.
So McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Yale, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Well, that's a good question, because I really do think he was right in that sense, how the artists are sort of the revolutionary guard of the human race. I think it's people who are afraid. They say, yes, quietly, he says it to himself, going to the bathroom, but I don't want to think that, because it makes me feel guilty or less than or lazy, or yes, he's right, but I have to go that direction because everyone else will think I'm a nut following. And I think it's putting a spotlight on things that often as humans we don't want to look at, we don't want to focus on. Yes, I know it's there, but can change the subject. That's why we have the word. That's what we have. That change the subject. Change the subject. What do you mean change the subject? Change the station. I can't see it. It's too much. I do that. Certain things on the news today. Me and my wife are sitting down. I said, "Oh God, okay, all right." I'm impressed. And she said, "Yeah, you're right. I don't want to see. Particularly what's happening in the Middle East." Just saying, "Oh no, I know it. I'm a reader. I'm eating now. Let's have light fare right now. It's too heavy on me, and I'm not going to get a gold medal for putting myself through that. Just hitting myself." So I think some people just the artists are putting a spotlight on something that they're afraid to really see. And maybe they even think like, wow, I saw the light and I feel less than, or I feel unhappy now because I didn't really live up to my true expectations or what I could do. And why is that? So I think there's a fear of being of exposure.
Do artists have moral obligation?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Yes, that's an easy one. I think we, as you said, we're the antennas. We show not just the ills, because that's it, but the positives of the world, the things that you live here, hopefully a century long, and what is it that you're experiencing in this world, and magnify or help you maybe see it in a way you had never thought. As I said, that picture of a portrait of an apple seems so simple, but then next time that person loves that, did that painting, feels so proud of it. Takes an apple and eats it and looks at it and says, wow, Mother Nature really is the true painter. I'm just a copy. It makes us appreciate what we have, maybe strive for what is good about me. Not we all down and say, oh, bad. No, but also how can I get better and how can I listen more? So whatever form of art, I hope makes someone see something in a different light and makes them say, aha. I won't fill the rest of the sentence. It's just, they just go, that's interesting. Now okay. Now I understand it, or now I see something I took for granted. Don't take for granted. I see it in a completely different realm, different light.
Yeah, James Joyce called it an epiphany in everydayness.
Absolutely. Right. And I think that's what makes, if you're open to that, then one's life should not become leading a life of boredom.
Yeah.
If you're bored when you wake up in the morning, you can blame others, and sometimes maybe there are others that there's a fault to it, but you also have to look to yourself. Say, okay, how do I break the shackles of boredom? I'm bored. I have no interest. I just want to go to sleep. Well, of course, there's a mental thing. You got to check out your mental or you're with your partner or whatever it is. Then you have to break those shackles and say, okay, what's the opposite of boredom is something that's interesting, exciting. Well, why don't I wake up feeling that way tomorrow instead of boredom? Then you have to rectify that. It's not easy. I don't just, I'm not being flippant. Oh, snap of a finger, just smoking a joint pill. No, that's fleeting and that's BS. Really getting to the crux of the problem. But I think you're right. I think you want to wake up morning that you're happy that you woke up and to deal with all the problems, but hopefully a lot more pros.
Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
I'm going to say old right now. I'm being very open. We are in the United States. We are politically in a situation where old ideas are at the forefront. We have a man running for president for a second time, and if no one thinks, oh yeah, don't blah 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 blah, really, just read history. When this saying history repeats, we think that's BS. No, the sentence history repeats itself is true. History often repeats itself. Can we stop it? Yes, we can. But if we don't, then guess what? You got caught in the repetition, dude. And this is not a repetition of something good. This is a repetition that is harmful. And so sadly, some people think, well, I'll change that old deal, make it just seem a little different. Really? If it was a bad idea 100, 200, 300 years ago, it's a bad idea today. Slavery was bad 500 years ago. Oh, but a new kind of slavery. No, slavery's not good, dude. In any period, well, it was the year zero or the year, 1 million from now. So I think to be of them repeating themselves to fruition again.
Well put. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Woo! I'm going to think of when I can see myself, in Detroit. We lived in a walk-up, like a two-family. It was a 2 or 3 family walk-up on a street called Sturdivant. It was a mixed neighborhood, very East European Jewish, but there were some Polish people, Polish non-Jews, and some African Americans moved in. And I can see myself, playing with this other kid. I think it was an African American. Actually, it was a girl, as I remember. And we were playing with the truck, little trucks and dolls. And it's funny. I remember I was more interested. My mother said she found it cute. She says, "Oh, the girl went to take your truck and you gave it to her." And instead of saying, no, it's mine. And you wanted her doll. She said, "I found that very interesting." So so anyhow, but that's one of my earliest memories back in the day.
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Wow. Well, depending on how you've lived your life, that's a good question. If you've lived in sad, tragic, poor, unhappy conditions, then those memories are sad for the most part. Doesn't mean there's not some happy ones, and that's sad for people. So, but if you've lived in, mostly good times, or even more than mostly, then memory can be very happy. I mean, most of us hopefully have good memories, but there are those whose life has not been easy, and some people say, "Oh, they'll get over that," or they'll overcome their iniquities, economic situation, or racial bias, or whatever. And sometimes that saying, "Get over it," they will, but sometimes they don't get over it. And so they're 65 years old and they're speaking to you like this, and they say, "No, dude, I'm unhappy. My memories are sad memories, and I can't change it, because I can't pretend at 40 I was treated this way, or at 30 I was treated this way, or at 10 I was hungry, 3/4 of the day because my mother couldn't put enough food on the table." So that's it. Memory can be very powerful and be very debilitating concept, action.
Yep. Yale, tell me someone within your immediate family and then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
Well, I'm going to say, can I say my father for one?
Sure. Okay. What did you get? What did you get mainly from your dad?
So my dad, I certainly got his wanting to make a more just world, that the have-nots should have more than just, feeling good that they're striving for more but never reach it. So a more just world. Also, I got, my love of Yiddish culture, secular Yiddish culture, love of language, love of heritage. So those things. From my mother, I got the love of trying new foods, and even going into, my mother was a very avid baker. So I grew up eating homemade bread. I'd be in middle school and my friends said, I said, "Can I have your Wonder Bread sandwich? I want to try something different." They said, "Oh," and they said, "Man, what are you kidding? This is great." I was eating homemade bread sandwiches, but I was like, I want to have that, what was advertised on TV. So the love of good baking from my mom. So I like, I'm not saying messy or clutter. That's different. But dirt, I don't like. I have a cluttered kind of room, but everything, I like to clean it. I vacuum, dust. one doesn't have to live in dirt. In fact, my grandmother, my Boba, my dad's mother, was born in the old country. She said something once to me, younger, as she grew up poor and did better, but even they were poor. The word poor, they were poor. They grew up poor in Detroit, and she said, being poor does not mean you have to live in dirt. That's no excuse. No excuse. Even if it just means you have to, take a broom or dust, you might not have enough food in the refrigerator, but to just say, oh, there's dirt, the dog defecated, or I don't want to dust, or it's a broken thing over there. No, that doesn't need tidiness. And so anyway, so I got being, I guess, tidy from my mother. So those two, and then just the honesty. They were honest people. But I will say this, I also got from them, and this is going to sound kind of a weird way to come around to this question, was I saw the things that they did wrong or they should have, and I learned to do them from my parents. And that's good too. So they thought they were hiding it from me, but ultimately, as I became more mature and can understand it, I saw things. I wasn't going to correct them. I'm not their parent. I'm not going to change them. But they taught me, by them hiding it or doing it to each other, I don't want to repeat those mistakes with myself and with my future partner.
It's really well done. And so outside your immediate family, same question.
I have a couple buddies that I've been playing music for years. Well, outside, okay, I was going to say my wife, because that's my immediate family. I think I've learned so much from her, because, it's funny, you marry somebody and you think you have all these things in common, and some things you do, but you have so many other things uncommon. But you realize, isn't it interesting that the square peg can go into the circle?
Yeah.
Say Yale, that makes no sense. Well, it can. Some way it does in my realm, or the circle. So my wife certainly has influenced me. But outside of that, friends, and she's my best friend, but some musician friends. I have a very, very, very good friend. He was the one who helped me in my first formation of my band. He plays the bass, and he was like the bass of the band, meaning the bottom, but the core. He's so smart, and he's self-taught. He's just self-educated, and he talks about so many different subjects because he's such a wide reader. And I was just working with him yesterday on some music, and I always come away feeling so good because we've been able to explore subjects that we often don't talk about. And he influenced me in the way of to be open and try new things and read a subject that maybe I'm not. Normally I'd say, oh, that's boring to me, I'm not interested. But to say, well, just try it. You don't have to love it, but give it a little bit of it. So yeah, so he's still an influence, and hopefully will be for another 100 years.
How cool is that, Yale? Do you pray?
Yes, in a way. I was brought up. I was brought up in a conservative Jewish home. My dad came from an Orthodox background. My mother conservative in terms of Judaism. But I really, but my dad also was this. I say, Dad, we'd walk to the synagogue. We'd be walking, and I always tell me, God. He says, I go to the synagogue because I want to argue with God. I said, so I'm a secularist, a cultural secularist, but do I believe that there's something greater than me? Absolutely. I do not look in the mirror and say I'm the greatest thing on earth. And that, how egotistical, because long before I was here, something created whatever that me is, and the tree and the ground I walk on, and the dog that I see, and the piece of and the orange that tastes so good in my mouth, and I think it's just natural that when you come to a moment in the day or something, and you are in a quandary, it's due to someone that you love having a health problems, or some other kind of a family thing, or maybe there's something at work, or maybe something between a partner, just something that you just say, wow, okay, wait a minute, okay, stop now, forget about the books, composing, symphony, all the money I'm making, forget it. No, whoa, no. This is unhappy, this relation, something's, or the sickness they have. And and we can, you can read about it, you can go to the doctors, you can go to the shrink, but ultimately, it's in the hands of something that's more powerful than even us. And then so you pray, whatever it's to God. I pray to whatever may be out there that is stronger and bigger than me. I don't know God and with an old man with a long beard looking down from the heavens at me. No, it's definitely some power out there that was there before and will be there after. And even when, because eventually it may take 93 million years, the suns are going to explode. What does that mean? This solar system will no longer exist. There'll be another solar system, but there'll still be something out there that's even more powerful than that solar system. So yes, I believe. So I do take time to kind of say, what is it that I can try to do better to make me not feel this way or help that person get through this difficult time? And sometimes you just say, you pray to something. If you can hear me, whatever it is, that power, can you help me get through this period, or can you help them get through it?
Yeah. If God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
That Yale, you did your best.
Yeah.
You tried, and you left this earth a little better than you were before you came into it. And maybe the last thing is, and your art, hopefully many eons or many years to come, and people will learn from it and enjoy it. And it may be they get something completely different from what you thought you were creating, but it doesn't matter. It still makes them feel and think.
Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Wow. Well, I think there are evil people who, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know. I don't that part of the brain. I think there are people who are sick, that they're, already at 4, 5, 6, they're going towards something that is not healthy, that is evil, that is against societal norms. Definitely. Because someone might say, "Oh, but Yale, that man chose to kill that woman." But he seemed to be normal up to 32, and at 33, well, but that's not normal. You don't just choose. I mean, what created him to kill her or to rape her or rob her? That's not normal. Yes, we're going to convict him, whatever, and put him away. But there's, it's abnormal to do evil is abnormal, even for those who hide it and they seem so. So I think it could be a conscious or unconscious choice. But somehow, whether it's chemical, physical, so there's a scientific reason, or it's come because of circumstances of how you've grown up. And you've had bad examples, or poverty, malnutrition, whatever, or all you've seen is blood and people, I mean, if I'm a kid living in the Congo and all I saw these two warring tribes, ever since I've been 3 and I have those memories, and now I'm 33 and I've only seen machetes and blood and rape, and this, it's like, wow, you would have to be pretty powerful to be able to escape that, not corrupting your mind.
Yeah. Well, really, the hidden question, Yale, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower him.
Well, that's good. Well, he's got something there. Yeah. Right. If when an African American, I have African American, that's a whole nother story, but siblings, and if they acknowledge racism, and my sister told me this, if I just don't accept it. In other words, I'm not going to acknowledge that person, because that, as soon as I use the word acknowledge, I've given that person power to affect me. And so I'm just going to, sorry, dude, think what you want. Have a nice day, because your life is going to be miserable, but not me. And I'm not letting you make it miserable. And if anything, me walking away pisses off that enemy more because they want acknowledgement. So I think that's, yeah. So I agree with what said, not to acknowledge. Now that doesn't mean though I ignore and pretend it's not there. I don't live in a panacea. This isn't the Garden of Eden as much as, even Abbas would have liked it. It's not. There are bad people. We use the word bad and people together in a sense for a reason, because sometimes there are bad people that don't like me, don't like you. And sometimes all they do, the worst thing they do is just don't like you. Okay, you don't like me. Have a nice day. But sometimes they want to physically hurt me, as well as maybe mentally hurt me. So you have to, we can't stick our head in the ground and understand it. Maybe try to reason with them, or if not, then limit to the best of your ability their power over you and over others like you. Try to limit it. You're never going to be able to completely extinguish it, but you can limit it by not giving them credence and acknowledging, et cetera, and not putting that focus in the spotlight. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes the news, you turn on the news. It's like one time I wanted to write to a reporter, say, "Wow, could it be possible that I watched the BBC today for 30 minutes and everything was like a positive story?" I think you guys, it's impossible for you to do that. It's like 80% of the stories is something sad, tragic, happening, war, strife, famine, and a happy story at the end. Why don't you do the opposite once? But there's a lot of strife out there, but maybe sometimes we focus too much on our enemies.
We do. And it's funny, the follow-up is Nassim Taleb said, games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. In fact, Gregory Bateson said, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, "Whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day"? Or does he go, "Oh, I did something morally and socially wrong"? So, I mean, again, it's a lot of prompts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
Whew, good question. I think it can for normal, for healthy beings. It can. My parents punished me when I did certain, thing, when I lied. That was the biggest thing. To lie. They say, because they said it's stealing the truth. But yeah, you can learn. It depends on what the punishment is, but yes, because we're born, you're born this innocent chick, so to speak. How do we learn? We learn by seeing, doing, watching, social media, whatever it is, and those thoughts of like, oh, I'm in the candy store, mom and dad, he doesn't. What's a bazooka gum? Come on, I'll take it. What's one gum? Well, but it is wrong. If there's only one, he's not going to lose his business because you stole, a dime gum. But it's wrong because it is. So it's like, oh, can I get away with it? And I'm satisfying that craving of the sweet taste in my mouth. So what was the question again?
Yeah, does punishment work?
Yeah. It depends. It can. But we see capital punishment is not a deterrent. If it was, then certain crimes we wouldn't do anymore. People would be afraid. Oh, I don't want to murder. But we see we kill people in these electrocution or gas now, or intravenous drugs. There's, so it depends what the punishment is and what it's meted out for. And it's but it's done. But it's done. I'm going to have to punish you. I'm not going to hit you, but you're going to go to your room and, no Game Boy, no computer game for the next 5 days. Oh, why? Because you did this, blah, blah, you hurt someone's feelings, and you have to learn, think about it. And then it's over. But if it's done where the parent or the person, the boss says it, listen, I'm giving you this punishment because I know you'll get through it and I want you to get better so you don't do it again. So it's done with that love and understanding to grow the person, not for the person to say, aha, I get to met out the punishment because it makes me feel good and my ego gets burnished and I like to see that person hurt. That's what is that? That's a sadist. I want to hurt you because it makes me feel good. So I think it depends on how punishment is vetted out.
Quick aside, Yale, if Trump gets thrown in jail and he can't run for president and he writes a book and says, I did wrong, I'm sorry, would you forgive him?
Woo. Wow, great question. You know what? If he actually wrote that book and he meant it, he wasn't just trying to sell, he wasn't putting on, he wasn't being a con man. If he really, really meant it, I could forgive certain things. I guess I could, because you know what? What you said, what flashed in my mind? How our thoughts. I flashed on immediately George Wallace. After George Wallace remember, he became a paraplegic. Guy tried to kill him. Worse, segregationist and anti this, anti that. Just not a nice person. But did he change? Did he become perfect? No. But he really changed, because apparently he said, wow, why did this guy hate me so much? And look what this bullet did to me. And now I also see what it means to be a minority, because what am I? I'm a paraplegic, and people look down on paraplegics, that we just suck off America, and you have to help me. So he did change for the better. I wish he hadn't lived all those 70 other years as a schmuck. So I would say it would depend if he was really, really sincere. If he said that, if in the apology he said, but how I affect, not just I'm sorry, but that I had influenced so many millions of others to do wrong, and that is the burden that I will carry the rest of my life. Then I say, okay, dude, all right, Mr. Trump, I can break bread with you, you know, but from your lips to her ears, I think that's never going to happen.
Yeah. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Woo! That's so great. Well, putting my environmentalist hat on, I would say to Faulkner, I said, you're right, but you know what's the scary thing could be? That the only where I'm going to see nature as it meant to be is going to be film if we keep screwing it up.
Really? Good point.
Yeah, I mean, so I won't be able to see that tree because we've just deforested the world. There's not literally a single tree. And matter of fact, my son in, let's say, 23 says, Dad, what is a tree? Oh my God, what is a tree? Oh yeah. Okay, let's go to the museum and we'll go look at what a tree was. No. But I think what literature, drama, even film does is it gives you a brief moment for that hour, half hour, 2 hours, however long the artistic experience is you're going. It gives you a moment to be brought into someone else's conscience, brain, and see that thing that you know so well in a different perspective. Yeah. And that's good, because I have 20/20 vision, but I'm not thinking like you, Jerry, and you're not thinking like you. We see a tree, I see it. Yes, I see it has green. It's a walnut tree, and I love the walnuts, but we're still seeing it differently. But for a moment, if you wrote a play about that walnut tree, I say, I see, Jerry sees it, and I never thought of that point. Oh, that's very interesting. You see it as a tree for home for squirrels and it's a universe in itself, not just a tree. So I think art gives us that moment, however brief it is, a positive way to see something, and it may make you may leave that experience angry. Well, then that artist did something about that art. Not all art is to make you feel ecstatic. It could make you angry or sad, because that's also emotion that sometimes we want to hide, because then it makes you see that tree and why am I angry? God damn it! Because I'm buying, I'm buying so much plastic. I got to use more paper. Whatever it is, I myself am hurting this environment, and I don't want to say one day the trees became extinct because I did not care. So I think those moments of going to a movie or a theater house are important for human society.
Really good, Yale, because I want to bring up really quick great Detroit artist Mike Kelly. He said, making art is making your problems other people's problems. Any comment?
You know what? That's great. Absolutely. And maybe making it their problem to where, so I just showed it to Steve and he says, wow, I just read that book you wrote. I understand your problem. I sympathize. I get it. I have that problem. And then we're both quiet. But Steve says before me, but guess what? I see the next chapter. I see how we can fix the problem.
There you go.
And that's it. So hopefully that person can see and understand, but fix it, make it better. Because I can't fix everything, but sometimes if I'm willing to be open, that egotistical say, oh, you're right. Thank you for that. That makes it better. And I understand it more deeply. Thank you.
Helping to see with new eyes. Really beautiful, Gail. You're really a smart guy. I'm learning so much. So I wanted you to walk me through, if you could, just briefly, these tipping points. Because I imagine, you're everything. You're music, film, author, photographer, educator, and I'm sure, well, musicians first. So let's just go with music first. What was the tipping point where you said, I want to do that? I mean, you're growing up, you're listening to music live or on radio. Where was it the point where you were like, that's what I want to do? Did your parents send you to school and go, you have to take this lesson, or did you pick it? Just suss that out a little, please.
Well, it was really simple for me. So here's one of the positive things of the Detroit public school system. Maybe it was the Michigan public school system. So in third grade, I was they called my name and I went out of the room and I knew I wasn't in trouble. I hadn't done anything. And I went, and this Mrs. Baker gave me a quick music test. She hit a key on the piano and said, sing that note back. And she did it for 8 notes. Oh, writes down, oh, you have a good ear, Yale. I take the paper home and I give it to my mother. It quickly says, oh, you passed this test. Mrs. Baker is going to come once a week from 11 to 11:30. If you like, free violin lessons. You get to go out of the class, but the parents have to provide the $25 monthly fee for the rental of the instrument. And I remember I was watching TV, whatever, and all I heard as a typical eight-year-old is get to go out of class for 30 minutes. Great, I get to leave class. And so I say to people when they see me with a violin in front of thousands, I could be standing here with a bassoon, saxophone, harmonica, jaw harp. It happened to be the violin, and then when we moved to San Diego, I had to practice because now I'm taking private lessons. It wasn't public. So and being forced to practice after a while was getting tedious. And I didn't want to do it. So my parents said, you don't have to listen. It's a privilege. We'll stop the lessons. There's the violin. When you want to pick it up, you do, you don't. But we're not going to throw out $25 a week now because you're not practicing. You got to, because you're not going to get any better. And then my teacher saw that. She saw something in me, which the competitive spirit. She said, Yale, and she could see after a year, I wasn't progressing. Yale, there's a youth symphony starting up, with a 100-piece youth symphony, ages of 12 to 22. And maybe, would you like to try out for it to play in an orchestra, meet others and play this beautiful music? I said, try out for it, meaning you have to competition. So she said, now you might not get it, but anyhow, I tried out, I practiced, and lo and behold, I got in. There's 16 first violins, the first 16 seconds. My name tag had Yale Strom number 32. I'm walking back. I was sitting back with the French horns and trombones. And I was like, wow, I'm the last chair of 32 violinists. So anyways, we playing, and I'm playing music that my parents would play on the Victrola, on the record player. I go home. My mom and dad say, hey, how was your first day? I said, it's fun. But, I'm 32 out of 32. I'm the last chair. Well, my dad says, wait a minute. But who's number 33? I go, 33, Dad. Oh, that's right. There is no 33. So number 33 didn't make it. You're in. He didn't or she didn't. That got my love into music because you know what it was? I was playing with others. Music to me is a communal thing.
Yeah.
I just play in my room and practice by myself and only for my teacher. And then as I grew slowly, And when I took a left turn, I was going to go to law school. That's a whole nother side story. But when I decided I wanted to form my own klezmer band with original music and instrument, and when I did this trip to Eastern Europe when no one was traveling there, etc., when I came home with the music, then I saw, wow, the violin is not just a tool for making your hear beautiful notes. It's a way to communicate. I was communicating. I was having conversations. I was understanding people, and they opened up to me. And then the rest is history. So the first art form that I've been doing the longest is playing the violin, and then I got into composing, etc. So the violin opened me up to how do I use music to communicate? Film, music, and film. You can have just imagery, but and you can have dialogue, but if you have just imagery and music, it can be the most powerful film ever. And we know that, without famous actors and all that, it could be like, whoa, I came out, you're just like, that blew me away. And so I wanted to see how I could use my music in my different, even in literature. People say, well, I open the book, I don't hear music. I say, no, but if I'm writing something about someone playing something or hearing music or turning on a radio or listening to it on a YouTube, you're thinking, oh yeah, I did that. And how the rest of the scene develops because of that person hearing something and makes them, interact with their emotions. So music definitely is one of the main ingredients of what makes Yale Strom, Yale Strom.
Yeah, so good. Let's stay on music a little. McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness. Knife and fork extends our teeth. Shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. Even, say, religion or philosophy might extend consciousness, non-tangible. What does the violin extend for you? What humanness?
Well, first of all, I've been saying this for many years. The violin for me is not just an instrument. It literally is my third appendage.
Yeah.
So I have 3 arms.
Yeah.
You don't see it right now because one of the arms I can detach. It's in the case. But as soon as I hold it, even just holding it, not playing it, it's like I'm engulfed into that body shape of the violin. And it becomes an extension of who I am.
Yeah.
It gives language. And so they're seeing me differently than just Yale Strom baseball cap, shirt that has right now I'm wearing a shirt that is talking it's a film festival that I had a film in New York City, regular Joe. But as soon as I hold that violin, as soon as I speak with my violin, people are like, their eyes or ears are like, oh, that's different, that's new. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to say. That it surprises me, right? I'm not like thinking now I am speaking to Jerry and I am putting these words in a sentence. I don't even know what the sentence is going to be. Yeah. And sometimes I go, oh my God, what did I should have recorded that. I'll forget it. Sometimes I'll quickly write it down because maybe that sentence turns into a symphony.
Yeah.
As that sentence turns into a novel, but for a musician, that novel's a concerto, a symphony, something like that.
Yeah. Copeland says the 4 elements of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. You already talked about rhythm as being really important. How do you integrate when you're writing a Yale piece of music? It's not commissioned. You're going, I'm going to write a piece of music, Yale. How do you navigate and focus those 4 elements: melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color?
Well, you said rhythm. So I'm always curious about rhythm because I know rhythm moves people, even unconsciously. They may not realize whether they're tapping their hand on a tabletop, listening to it, or they're tapping their foot, or just bobbing their head to the rhythm. So I'm conscious of rhythm first. What rhythm do I want to write? Do I want to write something that kind of a typical rhythm, 4/4-6/8 rhythm, or do I want to? And when I'm saying typical Western American, let's say, so to speak, or maybe I'll give you an example. I was listening to Dave Brubeck the other day. I was listening to his classic, Take 5. Brubeck and actually his sax player actually wrote it. I got to give him the credit. I'm forgetting his name right now. But anyhow, Take 5. And it made
Paul Desmond.
Desmond, right. Sorry, Paul, I forgot. You wrote Take 5, not Dave. So I was listening to it and I said, wow, I want to write a Breckish piece. I want to write mine. And so I thought, oh, do I do it in 5? No. So I decided to write something in 7. Kind of keep the melody simple, but so I often think of so rhythm then, but then melody, but also, something like, okay, the descending note, do I go to the third now? Do I go to the harmonic note or no? I know people are thinking I'm going to go there. And I often like to do little surprises because, just to do it, to go against the grain. That's me, go against the grain. And then tone color, sometimes it could be a very slow piece. Rhythm still is, I love Satie. Satie. Oh my God, I can listen to them all day. And it's slow, but it takes me. There you go. If you want to ask me, what do I meditate to? I meditate to Satie.
The best.
So
I love it.
So the timbre is important. All of the color, and then also instrumentation sometimes, because Satie on the piano is going to be very different than Satie on the harmonica. Harmonica can be very beautiful, but it's just because it's what's being manufactured, double reed, and how it comes out the air versus the piano versus the cello versus playing Satie on a tuba, which could be done. And I would probably sit there and go, I love the melody, but it's not quite relaxing me.
But yeah, this is perfect because my other friend says the 3 T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. So you've learned how to play it, the structure. How does one acquire taste? Like you grab it. You brought up Brubeck and Satie, man, 2 greats. Why did you gravitate towards them and not mentioning someone else? How did you acquire taste?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I think first of all, as children, we're open to our surroundings, and my parents played a lot of classical music. My dad also played a lot of folk music, both Jewish, but he loved just Americana folk, Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, Paul Robeson. So I was brought up with folk music, labor union music, classical music, and Jewish music. And then my mom played on the piano, little kind of some Broadway, little light swing jazz. Yeah. I like rock and roll. I'm open. You know what it is? I'm open to music, even though I may not be partial to sitting down for a couple hours to listen to it. But I say, all right, let me sit down. Why am I not liking it? But what is in it that is, what can I find interesting? So I think acquiring taste is being open to something new that might not strike you right away as, I love it, to something that you may grow on you, or you say, I gave it a chance, because that's equally important. You don't have to love everything. It's like, I don't love everything, food out there, or every drink or whatever. No. But you understand why you don't love it and why you love this. Is it because of the feel, the timbre, the tone, the vibe? There's certain hip hop artists I will listen to more. Sometimes hip hop gets a little boring for me. Why? Because the beat can be very regular, and it's like, okay, the same kind of beat, and the timbre or the tone of the voice melodically it's like 3 or 4 notes. Okay, I get the poetry if it's interesting poetry. Oh, okay, well, you got me hooked. That's interesting, good rhyming, but you're making me think. You're saying some stuff. It's like, okay, it's getting kind of boring to me. Yeah. And yeah, so I guess we all acquire taste based upon how we grew up, our living experiences, and being open to new sounds, being something to new. I never used to like the Chinese instrument, like the spike fiddle. They play and I thought, and then I was at this fiddle camp I was teaching at, and this guy played it, and he was playing both Chinese folk music and some Western. And first of all, I was looking at his expression, but then I was watching him and I was looking at others, and I said, you know what? I'm not giving this instrument its due. And I began to understand it more, read about it. I said, this is actually a really cool instrument. Beautiful. So I was open to be taught to like it, where I already had come in with a preconceived notion. And I think any artist, whether it's music to architectural art, landscape art, if you come within a preconceived notion and that's the way it's going to be, I think your artistic horizons are going to be limited.
Really beautiful, Yale. This is a follow-up on that word taste. McLuhan said, Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment?
Oh, well, I was first face. Repeat that again,
I
Jerry.
mean, there's two parts to it. The first
Okay.
part is song is slowed down speech.
Oh,
But
okay.
the key part is the reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference.
Absolutely. I love that. Absolutely. Because when you listen to, as I was just speaking about Chinese, when you listen to certain Asian languages, it's coming from deeper in the throat. Their tonality, it's a tone, it's timbre.
Yeah.
And some people say, oh, it's sing song. I mean, people would make fun of or listen to Scandinavian language. That's a tonality thing. So definitely language. And of course, then if you're growing up with that tonality, there's certain tones in musical instrument that you're more susceptible to, like versus others. I mean, when you listen to Mongolian language, it's so interesting in the back and its tonality because they give us that amazing Tuvan throat singers that just blows my mind away how they do that. I love it.
I love that. And it's like three voices at once. And I love it because Richard Feynman and Zappa both hosted the Tuba Throat Singers when they came to LA. They did the Rose Bowl parade and they were on Johnny Carson. And these guys, this was the cool thing because you really nailed it. I mean, very few people understand that McLuhan quote, and you got it. It was really well that you got it, especially bringing up the tubas because they sing about three things. I mean, their music is transcendental. I go into a trance when I hear it, but they sing about three things: their horses, snow, and their boots.
and that's the beauty, though, of not understanding the Mongolian Tuvan dialect language because specifically. I mean, if you want to learn it, speak it, great.
Yeah.
But it allows you then to interpret the notes, the timbre into your language in the head. And that's what getting back to earlier I talked about. And so when you play music, I am creating a language that you can interpret any way you want. Mm-hmm. There's no you must. Because as soon as they say you must, why am I putting a definitive point on it? You know, and it's like this brings me to the point of, let's say something Hasidic music, the Hasidim, Orthodox Jews, and they're singing and they're dancing. The thing that I grew up with about Hasidic music is what made it very popular, and all of a sudden Jews, even Jews that didn't get religious but loved it, is, okay, we have lyrics, but what happens when you're reading lyrics? I'm singing, I love you, God, and I will pray to you tomorrow, and I'll bring you the holy wheat that I grew in my field, period. But you come to that period, and you haven't reached ecstasy, something that cleaves you to something greater than you haven't reached it. Do you repeat the same words over again? Oh, how boring. No. What the Hasidim said is, onomatopoeia, I, be, mom, oi, I. Make any syllable you want, and the song goes on for as long as you want. You just, because for those who were religious, who were believing in the power of God, they say, but then someone said, oh, but that's nonsense syllables you're saying. It means nothing. I believe in God. That's like the Lord, like Jesus. And God is so smart that when I'm saying, I'm writing a novel and they understand everything. Yeah. You don't understand it. And so that's the beauty of music. Getting back to the Mongolians, I don't have to understand that he's talking about his boots or his horses or whatever, but it's talking to me, being this urbanite San Diegan, but me and that Tuvan guy can still fall in love with the same things.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you my play on the words insane Diego.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that? Insane Diego.
That's right.
But it's beautiful because we know the bossa nova craze, Brazilian music hit America, and it was romantic. We didn't have to know the words. We know the sound. So here's the question, Yale. What's more fundamental, language or music?
Music.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know why? Because even for the mute still feels rhythm, can hear, and and maybe can just utter, some sort of what we'd call maybe guttural sounds,
Yeah.
but doesn't have to speak normal, what we call English, Spanish, a language, a linguistic, a tool. I think,
Yeah.
music is, to me, of course, I'm a musician, and the sculptor out there will say, "Oh, you're wrong, Yale." But music to me is the most fundamental art form there is, and that's why they say, when you cut the arts, when you cut music arts, funding different in the school, starting at kindergarten, cut other things first. They'll get to the math. But music is teaching how to be a human, how to understand each other and relate. You can learn 2 + 2 in 3rd grade if you don't know it again. That's okay. But if you cut out the arts, because then the kids said, "Wow, I never was exposed to music," and there's something that's sad about that.
Very, very, very beautiful what you're saying about music. And here's a doozy. Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
Oh, okay. That makes me laugh. Yeah. Oh, I was just listening. Oh, the what's it called? Carnival of is it Carnival of the I think it's Carnival of the Animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the composer?
That was not Satie. Oh God, it's one of the French composers. You have to Google it. Yeah, just because I hear the sounds. I was listening. I heard it the other day. I was just walking, and it came into my head, and the animal sounds, and it was funny how he was able to recreate it. And also why I liked it too is because there's something, because animals. Here he was creating the world of animals. It's Carnival of the Animals. That's what it's called. And because animals aren't born and don't learn prejudice. They're not taught. I'm an animal. I got my wants and my needs. I got to make love to procreate. I got to fend off the enemy. I got to eat. But they're not like, dude, I don't like the way you look. You're too tall. No. And so here was this beautiful piece about how we should be more like as humans.
Yeah.
But in some ways, as time goes on, we become less like that, and we think we're so sophisticated. If anything, we become less sophisticated as humans, because I have this mind and conscience. I create this. Really, we're so sophisticated. I'm still killing people.
Yeah.
I'm still hating you for this. I'm still creating famine. I'm killing nature. How am I such a brilliant person? I'm actually killing my civilization. That doesn't make me brilliant. Most animals, most animals don't kill just to kill. They'll have a few, whatever, but they don't, and they don't purposely ruin their environment because they know I got to sleep here tomorrow.
Exactly. So, I'll ask for 90 minutes as we're almost there. And I just wanted to ask if we could possibly book a part 2, maybe 3, 4, 5 months down the line, because I definitely want to get into documentary filmmaking. I definitely want to get into you as an educator, photographer, but a couple more music questions, if that's okay. And then
absolutely.
This is Thelonious Monk said, there are no wrong notes. Any comment?
Man, I wish I'd say he's absolutely right. What it is someone say that's harmonically not right, or the I mean, here it is. Yes, is there a wrong note if it's composed and the note it's simple? You start on A and then it goes to B and then it goes to C sharp. That's a step and a half above the B note, right? And so it goes to the black note on the piano key for those who don't understand, who are hearing me. But if I play the C natural, meaning the white note, it still sounds good, but it's wrong simply because the composer said, "No, Yale, I meant it to be." There'll be another composition later where you can do that. A, B, C. No, I want A, B, C sharp. So in that sense, if someone has written down, I honor that because they composed it. Because then what the composer says, "Oh, well, you want A, B, C. You write your piece and I'll follow what you wrote." But when you're playing music, when you're improvising, just out there, no, I think there's, whether you intentionally meant to say that or not, I think it's all on how you how you would interpret it. Even when you say, that's hurting my ear. that comes back to what you said. Why is it hurting your ear? Maybe it's because the culture, society, language that I've been brought up in here's that tonality as hurtful, where versus somewhere in Australia, Aboriginal, or in New Guinea or wherever, they're saying, sounds, I can eat a sandwich to that tonality. It doesn't bother me. While other people say, oh, I'm grating it, I'm biting my lips. So I think it's it is all where we have been socialized and grown up to what we think is beautiful versus ugly. And I think Thelonious Monk, I think all music, there's a beauty to all music. Now, can I make something ugly sounding on purpose because I want you to feel something that's giving you tension? And yes, but then there's an intent. So there's a beauty to that ugliness, if that makes sense. Because I've made you feel, I cut through, and I made you think of the word UGLY.
Yeah.
And now you may never listen to me again because I made you think that way. But okay, but I made my point. So, but even in ugly music, there's a type of beauty. So yeah, again, Monk. Well, he was one of a kind.
Totally, and you really evoked. Frank Zappa said, "Without deviation, progress is not possible." And he's brought up a lot of this word "ugly," and made some beautiful music too. But you go to like Astor Piazzolla, who changed his country's music, the tango, and they beat him up for doing that. And then after they realized, well, other countries like him, then they would sell coffee mugs with his picture on as a tourist trap. And same with Ornette Coleman. They beat him up because he took King Curtis a little farther. And then, my favorite is he played Disney Center in LA, and Bobby Bradford was playing gigs with him, and he got 60 grand to play. And he says, like, dude, lower your rate so we can get more gigs. But it's like, for being as radical as Ornette was, that was an amazing progression in the history of music, that he could get 60 grand for one concert.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he did do the screechy stiff where people go,
Exactly. I know. I mean, everyone has their own taste. And there's a type of, there's music for every moment of the day, and there might be a moment I respect Ornette, but right now I think I'll turn Satie on.
Right, I love it. And I do. I love both ends of the spectrum. But some people only prefer one. That's fine.
That's fine.
Back to Monk for a second. I love is that Thelonious said that silence is the loudest sound in the universe. And, Miles Davis talked about the space between notes. And even George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, says funk is the absence of. So, you're well-versed in playing music, composing it. How do you know when to integrate silence and not playing, especially in this day and age where every kid on YouTube's playing like a gazillion notes? And I'm like, slow down. Could you put a little space between the notes? So how did you learn, and how do you integrate silence in your music?
Well, I learned by listening to others. What's it, 436 by John Cage? They got up on stage.
433. Yeah.
433. Thank you for correcting. 433. People go, whoa, what is this all about? No, silence, because when we're quiet, it means then the next piece of music, note, timbre of that note is not only emphasized without, let's say, it being attacked, you've spotlighted. Silence, rest, spotlights when the next music is going to come, to a point that you may not even realize it. I just wrote this, like I said, this kind of Brubeckish piece called "Don't Just." Don't just. And at the end of the phrase, at the end of the piece, I put 2 bars of rest. Maybe the bassist and percussionals will keep that rhythm going, but no melody, or maybe not. Maybe it's just, whoa, people are going, whoa, and then we come back into it. Because I think what the quietude does is it heightens the music, and also it's like that surprise spice that someone put in a dish that you only taste as it's almost down all the way your throat, like, whoa, what the hell is that flavor? But they hit it so well on purpose that it doesn't drown out the others. But all of a sudden it's like, so it, to me, the quietude, the rest are the spices that are, it's not peppering, it's not hot, like, it stings you. It's so quiet that it actually is an amble. You don't even realize it. It's louder than me blowing like horn. All of a sudden, silence. People go, and the silence is deafening for 30 seconds, and then you go back, quiet. Like people, that silence, like, whoa, where did that come from? And they're thinking about everything. So yeah, to me, that's, and and I'm thinking as a composer, and to surprise people. I'm not going to say, oh, it's by accident. No. Oh, people are going to think, oh, he's going to go right here for now. No. Complete silence, because I fooled you, because I want to. It's, I'm doing that kind of joke because I don't want to be an artist that you can figure me out. We all have to, if you can figure me out, then you don't need to listen or watch or see anything. You know me, then do your own thing. Let me be always one step ahead of you, but not just to do it to fool you, but to do it to engage your curiosity. And so you'll say, whoa, what did he mean by that?
Yeah. So beautiful. We're going to get into intention in part 2 and a lot more, but also reminded me of Duggo, one of the great artists in Venice, California. He said, Thelonious Monk heard all the notes Charlie Parker heard, but only decided to play some of them.
Oh, wow.
It is.
You said that? Oh my God.
No, this is my friend said that. Describing, and it was really a great observation, because
it is.
And it was like, when you're a wordsmith that's supreme, because you said quietude, what a great word, but you said the rest is like spice. And so it's like, what dynamics are. You can't just overwhelm them. You got to kick back and let it flow back and let it breathe a little.
Absolutely.
So, Yale, this has been one of the best ever in 40 years. I love it. And,
great. I appreciate it.
It could be an 8-part Netflix series. Come on.
All right. From your lips to her ears. Let's do it.
But I'll send you some dates to book part 2. And I wanted to just put this in your bonnet. I'm going to send you my essay I wrote, Can Art Stop War? And I did leave out, you really brought up the words break bread, and that's one of the things I'm proud of in the essay. Is like, this is what one modern philosopher said, is how do we resolve conflict is sit down and share food together. Like, here's a dish from my country, here's a dish from my country. Could we sit down and share something like that? But again, I didn't think of, it's not even in the essay, but I should say, sit down and share some music. Here's a tune from our country that talks about peace. Here's a tune from our country that talks about peace. Let's share the listening experience.
Right.
So we will get into social justice and all your other callings in life. And I really thank you for this time and energy together. Yale, really been special.
Thanks, Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever.
Definitely. I'll let you know. I'll let you know when I'm coming up to LA to play.
Very good. Thanks, Yale.